Welcome to Coaching in Session.
where limits end and growth begins.
Hosted by Michael Rearden.
This is your space to challenge the ordinary
Unlock your potential
and step boldly into your next chapter.
Your mindset journey continues.
As we continue on with the mindset budget, or this idea of energy in the mind in our day, we start to look at what we are truly capable of. It can be difficult for us to understand that there's a budget to our mind currently, and that we can only expend or spend so much on certain tasks or behaviors, and how much it will cost to change. Change is going to be one of the most costly things that we could do, but it would definitely bring about the most benefit. We can think of how someone can invest, where they can invest in something that maybe can create some level of wealth. But what I can say is, if we invest in ourselves, something else happens. We start to see rises in multiple areas of our life, not just our bank accounts, but our family life, our career life. All of these seem to produce better results. And it leads to the question, if we are getting better results and things are operating at a higher capacity, is there going to be more upkeep to it? Well, if we think of a house, for example, a home requires typically electricity, unless you're living off the grid and you're just living in the woods, and you don't necessarily have to worry about the power grid or how much energy or kilowatts you're using in a given day. But if you're listening to this and you're in the city and you're living the city life, then of course electricity is going to be a part of your lifestyle. We have to ask, if it's not electricity and we just say it's energy, what does that mean for us? What does that mean for the mind? Does it mean that our mind requires a certain amount of energy? Does it mean that our body needs a certain amount of energy in a given day? Well, if we start to look at all of these different things of what energy is, we understand that energy is important and we have to be able to audit it. But not audit so much like the IRS to look for discrepancies and to look for issues. We need to audit our energy level in every given factor of what energy is, not only ourselves, but our environment. And so today we have this article, The Energy Audit, How Your Environment Quietly Shapes Your Growth. When we start to look at past articles or past blogs where we were talking about different energy levels, and we're talking about purposeful prioritization, we're talking about mindset budgets, all of this is going to be something that we have to bring along for this idea of making sure everything works. For example, if you know how to do a basic skill of something, you can always do the more advanced skill of something. Think of it as a scale for music. A C major scale can be very simple. It's only the white keys on the piano. And of course, now we're going to be going into an F, and we're going to have one sharp, and we're going to be going up, and we're going to be making it more difficult. Now we need to know how the functioning is more so than the pattern, but we also have to understand it's not going to be just right next to each other where everything is so simple, because energy can be extremely complicated. Look at the Texas freeze in 2021, I believe it was, where the power grid was frazzled because of all the ice and all the snow. And even though we have all of these extra power plants, you know what? Texas was like, well, we're not going to have those going, right? We're trying to be green. We're trying to be more efficient. And what happened is that a lot of people lost power. And when they lost power, their homes couldn't be warmed. And since their homes couldn't be warmed, the pipes were frozen. And since the pipes got frozen, they started to burst. And after they burst, they damaged the homes. And now people were literally in the cold, without power, in their damaged home, trying to figure out what's next. Well, imagine if we knew that the environment we were in can be adjusted to whatever will come our way. There was no freeze that could ever freeze us or stop us. There would be no heat that can swelter us or burn us. So we know that we are prepared for whatever it is. Well, the environment that we're in is not only about our geological location. It's going to be about this idea of, if I'm around these people and these people have good energy and they are also focused on their mindset budget, they understand it completely, then we can say that we can grow with these individuals. Now, just because an individual seems good on paper, it doesn't mean that they're your individual. We can have people who are go-getters and they can be extremely efficient, but the moment they put you into the mix, it seems to cause a lot of problems. And you have to ask yourself, are you the problem? And the problem is that not everyone is going to work well with someone else. Think of it as different fuses for different occasions, for cars, different tires, right? You're not going to put a 20-inch tire on an 18-inch rim or something along these lines. Well, the idea is sometimes, even though people can sort of be in alignment, it doesn't work out. So we need to understand, well, if the environment is going to help us, or the environment that we're in is going to help us, what do we do about it? Now, in this article, we talk about how the energy audit begins. And it's more than noticing the things that are around you. It's going to be questioning what is shaping you every single day. Because you can say if you have grown in a given time, right? It's hard to say that you have grown in a day. It can be understandable where you might bring it out to a week or a month, but you can really see some changes within a year. Now, this can also mean that people will also see the changes within you. For example, people will say, Michael, you've changed. Of course, I can consider it as an insult, meaning maybe I was up here and then now they think I'm down here. Or I can say, you're welcome. Or I can say, thank you. I want to change. I want to be different. I want to adapt to what is happening, not simply move with how things are moving. Because if the world is doing this and I'm doing the old school way, very similar to how we talked about Kodak. Kodak, again, they were doing really well. They were killing it. And then all of a sudden the world changed and they refused to change. The mindset has to adapt. Not saying that we have to change because of changing's sake. Oh, you change, I must change too. Think of if your partner changes. Oh, they change, I have to change too. It's not so much of that. I want you to understand that the change is not so much of I need to change because something is changing. It's knowing that you have to change because it is the smartest move for yourself. The mindset is let me adapt, not let me mimic. So we can mimic what everyone else is doing. We can say, oh, everyone is doing this. And we can be aware of what the world is doing. For example, everyone in the world right now are going to be streamers, content creators. They're going to be entrepreneurs. So guess what? Why not do that as well? Right now, we're living in a consumer-based world. And I would say, if you have some money right now and you know how materialistic people are, you should go ahead and get some franchises in one of those storage companies, because there's always going to be people who are looking to store their extra crap someplace. And if you got the place for it, they're going to be more than happy to do it. And of course, if you get a big facility for it, I think even starting off with the promotions, you're going to be spending, or they're going to be spending in the ballpark of $100 and $200 a month just to store their stuff in your facility. Now, we can say that we have 10 units. That right there is going to be $2,000 a month. We can say we have 40 units and we can have 50 units, right? We can have multiple of these buildings sprung up all around the areas where we live. Now, you have to understand that the area where you live is going to be dependent on the population level. If you're living in a small town in Ohio, most likely a storage company is not going to be the way that you're going to make a lot of cash flow. Yes, sure, you might make some, especially if there's no storage facility in the neighborhood, but you have to look at the big cities. And here in Austin, there is always a new storage spot opening up because they understand that people have too much stuff. People are coming here. People are leaving from here. And it's easier just to put things in a storage container or a storage warehouse and say, okay, I'll get to it later. And maybe later never comes. And of course, those things are going to be auctioned off to the highest bidder. And it's not your problem anymore. But the idea is the environment that we're in right now is a very materialistic environment. We're living in a very fast paced environment. We're living in a very content creator type environment or a serial entrepreneur environment where we have so many ideas, so many things that we want to do and accomplish, and we don't have enough time. So, understanding that we have to surround ourselves with not only the idea, but the people that are going to help us through. Now, the energy can be either artificial or natural. And artificial meaning it is a fake energy. Think of being around fake people where you just are around them for gains, for notoriety, for safety and security. Those things are going to be artificial. Then you have your natural type of energy where in these environments you're around these individuals because they bring about something within you or from you. People who hang around me, even though we might be talking about our kids or we're talking about whatever life is, we can say that during the conversation is more than just the surface level. We get down to the roots. And if you ever try to water a tree just at the trunk and not the roots, the tree is not going to do as well as if you really made sure that the roots are taken care of. Of course, there's going to be different things you have to look at for the whole system of who we are. For example, you're not going to just take care of your feet and not your legs or your knees or your thighs or your pelvis or your arms or your chest. There's going to be the whole package that we have to understand. Now, when we start to really take a deep dive at this article, we can learn that a lot of people right now are thinking in the survival-esque type of mindset. They're thinking in the I'm only doing enough for something. I have these type of friends because they make me feel a certain way. I have this type of job because it's making sure I can have all of my needs met. And that is creating a behavior within us where that behavior can be considered as fixed. It can be very low level or low frequency. And as much as you can be disciplined to go to the gym, to read the blogs, to read books, to do all the things that you're supposed to be doing in order to level up, but you're not, then this is to say something about your energy. The energy that we have in a given day can be finite, but it's not finite in the sense or the terms of you only have this much energy every single day forever. So let's say that we start off with 100 energy every single day. This is not to say that we only have 100 energy every single day for the rest of our life. It can mean that if we level up, we can do more, right? So that energy bar of where we are at our lowest could be 100 or it could be less, right? Maybe we have an accident, a stroke, something happens, and we are just, again, we are beaten, we are trodden, and we have to figure out how can we get back to 100? And most people, that's what they're trying to do. They're only trying to get back to 100 rather than 200, 300. Why not get more energy to do more things? Well, this is all to say that the environment that we're in typically is going to be one that was created, and it's going to be one that typically is going to have a very plush lifestyle. Now, this plush lifestyle is not to say that it should be belittled or it should be forgotten. Most people are going to live it because the mind naturally is going to love the environment that is in. It's going to say, wow, I really enjoy this. Now, of course, if you're homeless, if you're living in an environment that's extremely harsh, then you might not love it as much. You might want to change your circumstances. But what I will say for those individuals that are in those situations are that they are going to be able to adapt to those situations, meaning they will make ends meet, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they want to do it long term. Now, when we're starting to engineer this idea of conditioning ourselves to understand that we need to look at the environment that we're in. For example, my thermostat is set at a certain temperature for the daytime and is set at a certain temperature for the nighttime. It also has a feature that if it gets too cold, the heat will come on to this level or to this degree. But for life, we don't necessarily have this automated feature. Yeah, sure, the body might sweat, it might shiver when it gets cold. It does these things automatically, but this is not to say that if we are hot, we jump in a cold ice bath, or if we are cold, we get some heat warmers or we build a fire. We don't necessarily do that. Most people just say, okay, well, I'm cold, I'm hot, let me suffer a little bit, unless we're in a closed space, we're in a closed environment. And this closed environment can be one of the most destructive things to the mind. Because if we think about what happened in 2019, 2020, this was the pandemic, COVID-19, most people were stuck in their homes. And when they were stuck in their homes, of course, we had a couple of, like a little boom of babies because people had nothing else to do but to make babies. They got fatter, they got more lazy, they became more fearful, more docile. And we have to ask ourselves, that environment, was it good, right? Was that environment good? And we know that it wasn't. We can see the test scores for the children that were in those 2 years plummet. We can see the communication level plummet from not only children, but adults as well. This right here shows that the environment is going to play a critical role in our upbringing and how we're going to progress later on in life. So when we are trying to expunge the bad things and trying to incorporate the good things, it is very similar to how the IRS is going to look at your finances, or they're going to look at your tax returns. And they're going to say, well, there's a discrepancy here. There's a problem here. There needs to be some adjustment here. You forgot to claim this. They're trying to get their money. But oftentimes for us, we just kind of want to just say, okay, whatever, let's just try to breeze through this as best as possible. We don't want any problems. We just want to have a smooth life. So most people will just go to H&R Block. They just get whatever. They don't look for any tax write-offs. They don't have businesses. So for them, they're just kind of getting slapped in the face for all the possibilities where they can gain something, or where they can look at the loopholes of what the government is or what the tax system is. This is not to say that we have to cheat the government. This is a mindset of, if we understand that there are going to be opportunities where we can look at our environment, look at our energy levels, and say, hey, we can make this better, why are we not? Now, in this article, we're talking about how we can get better, but it's not only about, okay, you follow these steps, you're going to get better. It's more of the mindset to it. Because I can say, all right, this person is no good for you. This person is lying to you. You need to get a new environment. You need to get a new friend group. You need to get a new career. I can say what you have to do, but will you do it? And even if you do it, and if you change your environment, will you change? Or will you try to have your environment change to you? This is the mindset. Ideally, people would say that if I'm changing environments, my environment has to change to me. Well, I don't know if you've ever gone from state to state or from north to south. Well, as much as you would like to change things, things don't necessarily change. And I'm sure you probably heard of the saying, if someone moves from a state that's extremely cold and they move to a state that's generally warm, and someone finds out about that, they might say, oh, you brought the cold with you. No, they didn't, right? But it's the idea of it, where most people, they bring in the aura, they bring in the factors, the mindsets, the comfort that they once had, and they just bring it over to a new location. Well, we have to be able to get uncomfortable. We have to give ourselves this idea of what can we do every single day that's going to bring about a level of growth. Now, we can use our energy for either running in a circle or running in a straight line. Running in a circle, you don't get anywhere. Yes, maybe running in a circle, if you're trying to lose weight, can be really good. And if you run in a straight line, you might end up too far from home. So then you're going to be homeless and there's going to be some problems. But this is not to say about our destination, but about progress, where I would rather you make forward progress to a location or a destination. And this is not literally a physical location or destination, but the idea of what you will like, a goal, a success you would like to have. What can that be? What does that look like? You tell me. If you want more money, what do you have to do? How much energy do you have to expend? Is it just a little bit of energy where you just say, okay, I'm going to stop working at 9 to 5 and I'm going to do some day trading, right? It doesn't require much energy. It requires a lot of skill, a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, a lot of know-how, an immense amount of focus, but energy, not so much. I think people who are building roads and who are builders, that requires a lot more energy in the terms of what energy is. But if we're saying that energy is the mindset and the environment is going to be the box that we put everything in, it's a total package that we have to look at. It's not only we look at one aspect, fix the one aspect, and everything else falls into place. We need to do so much more. Now, where people fail the most is, I believe, that they try to align themselves with the right people and they will do the things that they're supposed to do for a period of time. Think of if you get a gym buddy, right? They're holding you accountable. You're going to the gym, you're doing all the right things. Typically, that friendship or that relationship is going to last a couple of months before one of the people or one of the situations change. Maybe one person's schedule changes or a family, something happens where they have a kid or something happens in the family or they move. Anything can happen in that environment. And so what happens is the energy also fluctuates as well, meaning the energy that you had to go to the gym and to work out and to be fruitful in your growth is starting to dissipate, all because of a small change in your environment, all because of an adjustment in your schedule. If we know that the environment plays such a huge role, why are we not looking at the environment more? And this is to bring attention to environment today, because for the past episodes of past blogs, we have been talking quite a lot about our mindset, our budget, what we have within us right now versus what our environment is giving us. Because I will tell you this as a parent, and I know I'm not the only one, especially men. If you come home, you have a son or a daughter, and they say, Daddy, I'm hungry. You are going to do anything you can to get that kid some food. Even if you have to sacrifice your plate, you're going to make sure your kid is fed. Mothers do this as well. It's not just men. The idea is we can stay in that harsh environment where our kids are hungry, where they don't know where their next meal is coming from. And this is not to say that everyone is going to be fortunate or everyone is going to be in this bad of a situation where they don't even have food to feed their family. But this is to say that the food is the aspect of growth. If you eat and you sleep, you're going to grow, typically. The problem is the environment. We can eat for a day, we can eat for a moment, but do we do it for life? It's very similar to that saying, you can teach a man to fish or you can give a man a fish. And most people are living in an environment of taking handouts. Give me the fish, give me my paycheck, give me an opportunity versus teach me how to provide, teach me how to create opportunities, teach me how to grow. All of this is going to be a different mindset. So this is not only to say that we need to focus on growth-minded individuals, surrounding ourselves with them, but for us to understand that the environment plays a pivotal role in our development. Now, this is the psychology. The psychology is going to require an immense amount of awareness. It's going to require a lot of emotional regulation. It's going to require you to look at your thought patterns. You're going to have to figure out, what are you doing or what are you not doing? And then you have to ask yourself, what are the people around you doing and what are they not doing? And if you find yourself around people who are not doing a lot of the things they're supposed to be doing, maybe it's time for you to say, let me find people who are doing the right things. Because at some point you're going to compare. At some point you're going to say, well, they're not doing it, so why should I? Have you ever heard of a kid saying, but, oh, Johnny did it, this person did it, all right, I'm not the only one, right? Because they're trying to belittle it. If you ever get pulled over by the cops, everyone else was speeding. right? Well, sure enough, the cops go say, well, it's not so much of everyone is speeding that makes it okay. You were speeding and I caught you. So now you have to pay the piper. Well, the environment's the same way. Your environment, like I said, it can bring you up or it can bring you down. And you are the person that can say, I like this environment or I don't like this environment. You can change. You're not a tree, but most people are going to stay stuck within their friend groups, stuck in their workplaces, stuck at like an old low energy level, and they're going to just wish for a change to happen. And the change is going to be them. It's going to be them realizing that they have to take the step forward, that they have to keep themselves committed, that they have to take ownership and authorize the life that they would like to have and live. It's not always going to be given to us. Of course, there's that luck, there's that probability to it, but we have to be the decision maker, right? We have to be the deciding factor. Now, when we start to look at this blog one last time, as you read it, the energy audit, how your environment quietly shapes your growth after this episode, you're going to start to declutter and reactivate all of the misalignments in your life. You're going to look at your distractions and you're going to say that this is not going to be helping me. You're going to be more deliberate in curating friendships, and you're going to be looking at behavioral recognition in the terms of behaviors not only in yourself, but in other people. Because there could be people who might be for you, but then they can also be against you. For example, my wife, she's so funny, where I know she likes ice cream. I know she likes food. And she always likes to go on these little diets and always these little trends. And sometimes I might say, hey, do you want some ice cream? Do you want to go out to eat and things like that? And she looks at me like, don't you know I'm trying to avoid ice cream? Don't you know I'm trying to avoid going out to eat? And I think of Tony Robbins' wife when Tony was like, oh, I'm not going to eat any ice cream. I'm not going to do that. That's bad for you. And she just responds to Tony and says, Tony, live a little bit. Where we have to understand that in our environment, it doesn't have to be a prison. It doesn't have to be a jail cell. It doesn't have to be something where it's so strict and so structured where we can't live to the fullest, where we can enjoy what life is giving us, right? This energy audit is going to also be looking at what type of energy you want to emit. Do you want to be exuberant? Do you want to be someone who's exhausted on the other spectrum? This right here is to say that there's going to be different levels, and you have to figure out what you want. Do the work, figure out where you want to be. Of course, if you need support, revenconcepts.com. Feel free to reach out to us if you need help with your energy levels, or with your environment, the structures that you're currently living in, the conditions. All of this is going to quietly shape your life. Now, if I had to give you a bit of advice for changing your environment, yeah, sure, you can move from state to state and stay committed, read personal development books, continue to listen to the podcast. All of these things are going to be good things. But what I will say is I think there is an easier step. I don't have it in the article, but we just have to look at how we can make ourselves a bit better every single day, how we can adjust our environment, meaning think of our home, our house, for example. Typically, you want to improve your home. Maybe you put solar panels, maybe you put a new HVAC system in your home, new filters, right? You do these little things to improve your home. Even though we consider it maintenance, there are going to be things that can be big changes to the home, and then things that are just going to be small changes. For example, changing the curtains are going to be a small change, but making sure that your home has no lead paint, which it shouldn't have. It's 2026, but we make sure we have good materials in our home, that we have houseplants that are creating good oxygen, or we have HEPA filters and we have air purifiers that are giving us clean oxygen. It might not seem like a big deal, but it can make the biggest difference. Now, this is to say just the home. This also is going to include the foods we eat, the content that we are going to consume as well. We are going to be our environment. If you're on your phone all day, that is your environment. If you're stuck in a cubicle all day and you don't see the sun, that is your environment. That right there is going to have some factor. And you have to understand, if one factor is present, you have to do things to counteract the factor, but not only just to make it even, but to make it superior in the realm or in the terms of your growth aspect. So if you're spending 8 hours a day inside at work, how can you spend more time in the week at least outside? Can you go hiking? Can you go camping? Can you go out for walks in the evening with your kids? You have to be able to counteract it. There's not to say that there's going to be an exact balance where everything is going to match up evenly, but you do the things that are not only going to regulate you, but are also going to propel you, that are also going to enhance you, that are going to bring you forward. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but as you progress and as you look at your energy, as you look at your mindset, as you look at your environment, all of this is going to be the total package. Not everyone's going to be able to do it by themselves, but if you are going to do it by yourself, make sure you can be accountable, make sure that you can be disciplined, and make sure that you can continue until you reach your goal. Everyone can say they want something better for themselves or better for their life, but the people who truly want it will go out and get it. So go out and get what you truly want and not just what you're given.